to the Thought Snob Podcast. I'm Paula Swope. Let's get snobby. How do you know if you've truly forgiven someone? That's the topic of today's episode. I'm also going to tell you how to start the process of forgiving someone who probably doesn't give a damn about being forgiven. Now, people ask me all the time, how do I know if I've actually forgiven someone? And even more importantly, well, how do I do it? Let's start with something very important. There are levels of harm. Forgiving someone who made you the butt of a joke is very different from someone who burglarized your home, assaulted you, traumatized you. You know, there are levels, and the deeper the wound, the longer the process, usually. And in many cases, especially with severe abuse, forgiveness may need to be facilitated by a licensed mental health professional. This episode is perfect for people who have experienced turmoil in their relationships, humiliation, maybe domestic violence, infidelity, narcissism, and other more common problems versus the type of abuse that, let's say, the Epstein victims endured. I won't even pretend to act like I know what they went through. So I want to make it very clear who I'm speaking to in this episode. I'm addressing some serious situations, but not at that level. I just really want to make that clear. So wherever you stand with someone who wronged you, honor the depth of the injury. Now, how do you know if you've forgiven someone? I'll start here. This is where people get tripped up. You may think you've forgiven someone, but if there's still a tiny spark inside you that hopes they'll fail, suffer, or, get what's coming to them, you're not finished. If there's still a twinge of revenge, like even subtle, there's more work to do. Recurring bad memories that haunt your mind, even when you least expect it, is a sign that you haven't fully forgiven someone. You've truly forgiven someone when you feel indifferent, and indifference really surprises people. They don't expect it because we assume forgiveness should feel warm or loving or maybe reconciled. Not necessarily. Forgiveness feels somewhat neutral, really. I mean, it's the opposite of feeling hatred. If you hate someone, they still have a tremendous amount of control over you. If you love someone, they still have a tremendous amount of influence over you. But if you feel indifferent, oh, they have no control at all. Like, you don't think about them. You don't track their life. You don't really care if they win or lose. When their name comes up, your body just doesn't react. I mean, you lose the urge to correct anything. And that's another way you know. Your body tells you. If you feel that knot in your stomach, that tightness in your chest, that lump in your throat, or maybe all of that, or, that sudden drop in your mood, that sinking feeling, you still have forgiving to do. Now, here's where I'm going to challenge you, but just gently, okay? A lot of people believe staying angry proves strength. It doesn't. It proves attachment. Wise people forgive because they refuse to let someone occupy mental real estate for free. Forgiveness is not about the other person deserving it. We don't care about that. It's about you refusing to remain under their influence. They may not care whether you forgive them or not, but you deserve freedom, and forgiveness is freedom. Now, let me say something that might confuse or challenge you when you first hear it. People who forgive easily aren't weak. They're the strongest people alive. They are emotionally disciplined, and they are decisive. They can forgive and they can also walk away in 2 seconds flat if boundaries are crossed again. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation or association. With me, if it gets to the point that I have to, forgive someone, I probably don't want to be around them anymore. So forgiveness doesn't mean access. Forgiveness means release. So let's get practical for a moment here. And here's an exercise I want you to play around with. So first, I want you to focus on someone you know you need to forgive. And rate your desire for revenge on a scale from 1 to 10. 1 means there's almost no urge. 10 means you fantasize about their downfall. Okay? And I've done it, no judgment. Now, notice I said rate the feeling, not yourself, because you aren't your anger. You're the one experiencing it, okay? You're not your emotions. Now, ask yourself, if that number were a 1, no urge, how would I feel? What would it feel like to not care anymore? Whatever you come up with, that's what you're working toward here. Second, I want you to start saying and writing this statement. I'm willing to forgive, and then insert the name. It can also be a situation. Maybe there's a situation you need to forgive. Sometimes it isn't even a person, it's a circumstance, but usually there's a human heartbeat at the center of it somewhere, okay? Don't force yourself to feel something you're not ready to feel. Just be willing. Willingness cracks the door open. Now, the third thing, and this is hard, I want you to examine your role in this situation. When I say that, if your mind immediately went to, hold up, my role, I didn't do anything wrong. Now, before you react, just hear me out for a minute. I am not saying you're responsible for someone abusing you. I am not saying you're responsible for someone betraying you. But in relationships, it takes 2. Were you a willing participant? Okay? Ask yourself a few questions. Did I ignore red flags? Did I stay when I knew better? Did I contribute in small ways I don't want to admit? Just reflect about that. And this isn't about blame, it's about power. Because the only person you can control is you. That's it. If you can identify your role, even if it's small, you reclaim your agency, and agency dissolves resentment. In relationships, one person very well may be the culprit, but no one is usually 100% innocent. When you can own your actions and take full responsibility for anything that happens, you've reached a whole other level of emotional intelligence. People can't compete with you, okay? Now, here's another piece of the puzzle. You can't fully forgive others if you haven't begun forgiving yourself. Self-forgiveness is often the deeper work. And I advise you to just, chip away at it daily. Forgiveness is not a dramatic ceremony. It's a gradual softening, a loosening. And a good way to ease into self-forgiveness is to show yourself some compassion. 9 times out of 10, when we make mistakes, it's because of subconscious beliefs. We behave as we were taught to behave. So be kind to yourself and remember that you aren't the same person you were back then or when you made that mistake, okay? So let's get back to forgiving other people. The next step in this process is to reflect on everything you know about this person's upbringing and life circumstances. What do you know about them? The purpose of this is not to excuse behavior, but to find an explanation for it. If someone isn't shown love, affection, and compassion when they're little, well, they're going to have trouble showing themselves and others that love, affection, and compassion in adulthood. And this is only one scenario, out of a potential million, but childhood experiences and socialization are huge indicators of how a person behaves in relationships. Try to find a way to feel empathy for the person who wronged you. When you can empathize with someone, you can forgive them. This is not feeling sorry for them. This is not condoning what they did. This is understanding them better. What you usually find is that the abuse wasn't personal. They were just doing what they believed was normal, and it happened to have a hurtful impact on you. So I have one more thing I want to give you, and then I'll stop because, this is heavy stuff, and I want you to turn a bad situation into something beneficial. Every time I have been wronged by someone, I've learned something that has served me pretty well. What did you learn from the experience? Maybe you went through hell and came out on the other side. If that's the case, you had to have learned something. What was it? Whatever you learned, I'm going to give you a new perspective and something to ponder. Now, I have no idea if reincarnation is real. None of us do. If you're alive right now in this moment, you don't know either. But I won't discount it because I don't know if it's real or not. And it makes sense to me, so I won't discount it. I have no idea if we enter into soul contracts with people before we come here, but I won't discount that theory because it makes sense. And no one knows for absolutely certain. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, that you chose to learn specific lessons during this lifetime. What if you were paired with a person who taught you those lessons on purpose? What if those lessons help you get to where you're supposed to be? Can you find any benefit in being close to this person who wrongs you? Dig deep. Why did you have to go through that? Could there be a reason that's not so visible? Just be open to that idea. Explore it and see what comes up. So I'm going to stop here because I've given you a lot to work with, and I hope you use it. And if you do, there will be a day when you suddenly realize, oh, I haven't thought about them in weeks. That's how you know. Your nervous system is quiet. When you wake up, they aren't the first thing on your mind. When you go to sleep, they aren't the last thing on your mind. That's forgiveness. So let me ask you this. Are you holding on because you think it makes you strong? Or are you ready to be free? Because freedom feels a lot better than revenge ever will. And it's a higher vibration, so each time you release those heavy emotions, your frequency gets closer and closer to the good things in life. And usually there are repercussions associated with revenge, but there are only rewards associated with freedom. So this is not an easy topic. Feel free to reach out if you have questions or you need help while you're going through this process. My intention for this episode is to give you the tools you need to be fully empowered. No one should ever have control over you. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.
The Thought Snob Podcast with Paula Swope has been brought to you by Thought Snob Media in association with Special Purpose Studios. All production, mixing, and sound engineering by me, Will Swope. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Please take a few seconds to give us 5 stars and leave a review. See you on the next Thought Snob Podcast with Paula Swope.